Hello everyone, this is Paul the Yoga Knight coming back to you with something a little bit different. Yes, after a year of thinking and evaluating what to do, I am launching the Game Table project. I don't know how many of you guys remember, but when I came back after a year off with my channel, just about a year ago, I mentioned that I was going to do a game table project to upgrade my current game table. And, well, I've started. So what I'd like to do with this series is to go through the steps that I'm doing to actually make that a reality. No, I'm not going to go ahead and turn this into a set of woodworking videos per se, but I am going to talk about some of the think work that you need to do and obstacles you need to overcome to get something like this off the ground. So I'm not going to be showing you how I'm cutting the wood, but I'm going to be talking about a lot of other stuff that you really need to understand before you would start a project like that. So let us go ahead and start and see where this leads us. Well, the first thing with any project is to understand why you're doing it. What do you hope to accomplish by doing this project, whatever it is? For me, the main purpose of this project is to create a game table that supports YouTube video creation. Yes, I do that. And secondarily, play games with friends while allowing a game in progress to continue undisturbed. As I've said before, I am primarily a game player rather than a YouTube personality, so I will generally have something going on my tabletop, just like most of you have. Problem is that if I'm trying to maintain some kind of production schedule for YouTube, say pumping out a video once a week, it's really hard to do that on a single level game table because right when I start up a new game and starting to get into it, it's time to produce a new video, and well, lots of times I have to stop what I'm doing, pick the thing up, and go produce the video that I share with you guys. Or second, I will have a friend over from time to time. And I have a game that I'm playing, but, for the, say, 3 times a year, my buddy comes on over to visit me. That means that I almost have to plan in advance so that these things synchronize up. It's like, okay, I got to finish this game by this date so I can go ahead and set up the game that we're talking about playing and then get that going and get it done, and then maybe I can reset up the old one again, but obviously I have to start over again, which is kind of a bummer. All right. So my purpose in doing this project is to make those issues go away, both for supporting YouTube creation while allowing me to continue to play a game on my tabletop, as well as, say, have a friend over and continue to do the same. So what is it with my table? What is the current situation with it that's kind of driving me to do this? Well, my current table is actually was originally a conference room table that I bought for my business, something over 10 years ago. And it served me well in my business in the office condo that I owned for probably about 5 years. And then I moved to Tennessee in preparation for retirement, which I have done just last month. Yes, sir, I am now officially retired. But this table was purchased as a conference room table. It is 8 feet long by 4 feet wide at its widest point. Its height is 29.5 inches. Getting the table height right is important for being able to do anything on the table. There's a certain range of height that human beings, given how we are built, need to stay within. The shape is called stadium, which is a modified oval. Think of the Circus Maximus in old Rome, where the chariots were running around it, and it's kind of that. It's curved at the ends and it's straight in the middle. So it would be perfect for a Circus Maximus miniatures game. The legs of the table are dual pedestal legs. Now, table legs, they are probably one of the toughest things to do with regard to the table. And one of the things that I do like about this table is that the pedestal legs are recessed under the table, and my legs and the legs of the people sitting at the table never get tangled up with them because they're not at the corners, they are in the center of the table. I do like that a whole lot, and I want to keep that. The table is constructed basically like a tank. It is uber strong. It is constructed of 1-inch plywood across the entire surface of the table, plus an additional 1 inch around the perimeter of the table, going in 3 inches. So the outside 3 inches going around the table is 2 inches of plywood, and in the center it is 1 inch of plywood, which is more than your typical home is constructed with. Most homes are going to be constructed with 3/4 inch plywood. This table is constructed with 1 inch plywood, and where it matters, it's got an additional inch of reinforcement. It is a strong table. All right, so that's my current table. So what I propose to do with this project is to build a table topper that permanently affixes to the existing table such that the converted table first is fully rectangular. The stadium format of this table, it cuts off a lot of space. I lose a lot of space with that. I figure, well, 8 by 4 is 32 square feet, but I probably lose about 4 square feet just because of the curves at the end of the table. But from a practical point of view, because almost everything in gaming is rectangular, I lose more than that because at the ends of the table, there's just not much there to work with. Once you get into the table a little bit, of course, things widen out all the way to 4 feet, but at the end, it's not useful space. So I want a table that is fully rectangular such that every square inch on the table can be used for gaming. I would guess that right now I've got probably maybe 25 square feet of useful space, and I think I'm going to go up to about 40. So it's going to be a substantial gain in usable table space from the current configuration of the table. Second goal, I want it to contain a well and a tabletop cover. Now, a lot of tables, they talk about being a dining gaming table. Well, this is going to be a gaming table. I could care less about having place settings on the top of the table. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm not worried about spilling dinner drinks down into the lower well. None of that is a concern to me. What is a concern to me is being able to have games on the top and the bottom of the table so that for YouTube or having friends over, I can play on the top and I can continue what I'm doing on the bottom of the table. So I want the table to have a well and a cover so that the game on the lower level can sit undisturbed while something else is going on the upper level. Concurrent play on both levels is not a requirement of my project. I'm not going to try to have them be able to pull out and shift around so that you can flip-flop the bottom and the top. That is not a requirement for my project. Third, I want the table to be capable of supporting gaming-related accessories such as beverage holders, card holders, and so forth, plus video creation accessories such as mounts for lighting and cameras. So with the YouTube that I do, something that supports that activity, plus the normal creature comforts that you see on modern gaming tables when you search around for them. Beverage holders are kind of a real requirement because I just had a gaming session with my buddy, and it's like, my God, after a few hours of beer and whiskey, I can tell you that the elbows and arms were flying, and there was some concern that the drinks were going to find their way onto the table, let's just say. So I want something that's going to make it easy to keep the drinks off the table. Now, every project has its constraints, so let's talk about what my constraints are. Well, I want to incorporate the existing table into the new design in its entirety. So my goal is to not change a blessed thing with the current table and have the new table rest on top. Now, it is not a requirement that I not do damage to the existing table. So for example, I am going to screw the new table surface right into the table surface of the old one. So I am going to burn the bridges. I'm not going to go back to the old table. I'm not going to make that a requirement of the project. At this point, I feel comfortable enough that I'm just going to sacrifice the nice tabletop of the existing table and by putting a new tabletop on it and then screwing the thing right into the old tabletop. The height of the tables, lower level, I don't want to see that over 30.5 inches. So the current table is 29.5. I'm saying I'm allowing myself 1 inch. And I also decided to go with 3/4 inch plywood. So to have that taking up 3/4 of an inch, it doesn't leave a lot for the final finished top coat. I'm going to go into that in a later video, but that I want to keep it to be no more than 1 inch higher than the current tabletop. The height of the upper level, I don't want to see that over 33.5 inches. So you got to leave room for a well. So basically my idea is to have a skinny well. It's not going to be a super deep well. Why? Well, what do I play? What do I need this for? We're back to that. Well, I play hex and counter games mostly. I have yet to see a game that requires me to stack counters up more than, you know, half an inch, say. So I don't need a real deep well. Some games, such as games like Mage Knights, yeah, they do have some miniatures. I'm just not going to worry about that. I might be able to fit them, I might not. I'm just not going to worry about that because most of what I do is basically straight hex and counter, cardboard counters stacked up on a game map. And having a 3-inch difference between the upper level and the lower level is going to be plenty for doing that. Finally, the corners need to be rounded to avoid my wife's wrath when she bumps into them. Yes, I do have to think about that stuff too. And besides, I know it hurts if you bump into a pointed corner. I don't want to inflict that on her, and I certainly don't want to inflict that on me. The second main thing that you have to do when you're planning a project, other than having a clear idea of what it is you want to accomplish and why you want to accomplish it, is what you're currently capable of, what your shop is currently capable of. So let's talk about that for a second. Well, okay, first thing is education and training. What do I need to learn to be able to do this? Do I need to learn anything? Are there skills that I don't have right now that I'm going to need to pick up in order to be successful for this project? Well, okay, what I did for this is I did a massive survey of YouTube, which I also refer to as the fountain of all human knowledge. Give me a couple weeks and I could probably do brain surgery just by watching YouTube videos. Not that I'd want to. But as far as tables are concerned, I watched a lot of material as far as what other guys were doing to build their own tables. There's a lot of stuff out there. If you want to do a table project, I would strongly suggest that you spend some time doing that. This is all about seeing what other guys did and learning what they think they did right and avoiding their mistakes. They're pretty open as far as explaining all that stuff to you. Second, find some experts, some gurus to look at. My two favorites are the Wood Whisperer. He has got all kind of stuff out there. He's been out there a long time, and he's entertaining, and he's also extremely informative. I would suggest looking at the Wood Whisperer as one of your gurus. Second, I like Stumpy Nubs. Stumpy Nubs, he's been out there a long time too. I love his videos. I love what he does with his tool tips as far as new tools coming on the market that you can pick up to augment your shop. It's all good stuff. He's also got a real good perspective on safety, which I review his videos quite, more than once a year to make sure that I have a safety mindset in my brain and in my shop. And I want to give honorable mention to Norm Abram. Norm Abram was... I first learned about Norm on This Old House back in the days when they had Bob Vila all on PBS. And then when Norm separated from This Old House, he got his own series called The New Yankee Workshop. One of the things I remember from those videos is that he always just impressed the heck out of me with all the tools that he had. I mean, he had a tool for everything. And now when I look back at those videos, I say, my God, I have pretty much the same tools that he had, except that mine are a whole lot better than what he had. So it just goes to show that his table saw that looked like a piece of junk by today's standards, it would still cut a piece of wood as thin as a piece of paper because he knew how to adjust that table saw to make it perform at that level. So as Chuck Yeager would say, it's the man, not the machine. And so honorable mention to Norm. He's the one who got me and a bunch of other guys my age interested in doing woodworking. So thank you, Norm. Then a bit on the Wood Whisperer Guild. Now this is Mark, the Wood Whisperer, but he has a separate website called the Wood Whisperer Guild where you can actually purchase plans for various things, but not just sheets of paper. He will put hours of video out there showing you step by step by step how to actually build the thing. And one of the projects that he has the videos out there for is what he calls the dining gaming table. So the idea is that you have the top level being kind of for eating and the bottom level for playing games. It's not quite my requirements, but it's close enough. And I actually purchased the series for the dining gaming table. There is a short form version of it out there for free, but is certainly, if you want to build a gaming table, I would suggest going to the Wood Whisperers Guild and getting yourself the subscription to the dining gaming table. It's a lot of information that you can use. And short of that, you can look at the synopsis on YouTube that Mark put out there for the gaming table. All right, so that's education and training, my own personal skills that I try to pick up to be able to do this project. Second is the tool assessment. Now, the question there is, what tools do I need to pull this project off? Not the skills that I have, but what tools do I need? Now, I've done a lot of upgrading over the past year. For my 65th birthday, my wife bought me a SawStop 3-horsepower professional table saw with extra doodads for dust collection and the outfeed table. And it's just wonderful. It's just absolutely wonderful. Just today I cut a 2-inch walnut, very dense wood, and it just sawed right through that, saying, please, sir, may I have some more? It was great. But for 10 years prior, I've been doing woodworking for over 10 years, and for 10 years prior, I had a rigid hybrid table saw that I bought at Home Depot that served me for, like I say, something over 10 years, and I did all kind of projects with that, including redoing all the countertops in my old house before we sold it in various forms of hardwood, 1.5 inches thick, and it chewed through 1.5 inches of mahogany and walnut. It did a good job. So you don't necessarily need to spend a fortune to get a decent table saw, something that will get you started in this wonderful hobby. You can do a lot without a table saw even. My first woodworking project was to build a routing table. Now, all I did is I went online, YouTube, and I found Sommerfeld tools, Sommerfeld. Okay? I didn't have a table saw. All I had is a miter saw and a router. Sommerfeld showed me how to make a temporary fixture for a router that I could use to build the router table, to bootstrap the project. And by the time I was done, I bought his router tabletop, I bought his fence, everything you see in his videos is available for sale. I have the best router table that I've ever seen anyone ever have. I wouldn't trade it for anything. For this project, I had a dowel jig from Dowlet. It was one I got in an estate sale and on the cheap, and it did the job. But I bought a new one that had some upgrades to it so that I would be able to use it on this project. The GRS-16 Rail Guide Square by TSO Products. That is a square that is used with a track saw. And what it does is it helps you easily cut 90 degrees straight across the board. And I bought that specifically to help me cut the plywood for my tabletop. We'll get into more of that later, but I knew that I would need something to help me do that. So I found something and I had it. And oh, by the way, it worked. I bought flat top box joint table saw blades. I got a couple. The issue is that table saw blades are not flat. They don't have flat teeth, generally speaking. They have like pointed ridges. Each teeth, one will have a ridge on the left side, the next one will have a ridge on the right side. And so when you do a non-through cut, you're going to have a series of ridges at the bottom of what you cut. And if you want to do dados that way, which is without a dado blade, I wanted to be able to cut dados without a dado blade and do it with a regular blade. So there is something called a flat top box joint blade that will allow you to do that. So I picked up one of those. Woodpecker has something called the Rip Flip, and what that does is it restricts how far a table saw fence can move. And you can have two of them because they come in sets of two and they can lock together so that you can specify a 1/2 inch travel for the table saw fence, which is absolutely perfect for cutting a 1/2 inch dado. So I'm looking forward to giving that a go. Skills assessment. I am not a beginner in this woodworking activity, but I'm also not an expert and certainly not a master craftsman by any stretch. I am firmly in the intermediate ranks. I remember one of my favorite lines from a Dirty Harry movie, I think it was the one that had Hal Holbrook in there, where Harry says, "A man's got to know his limitations." And that's the way I feel a lot about woodworking, is that you want to grow what you can do, but you don't want to go so far past what you know how to do so that everything kind of crumbles, so that everything gets all messed up. This is my 18th significant woodworking project in the 10 years approximately that I've been doing this, and that included hardwood countertops for all the countertops in my old house, several hanging cabinets, freestanding shop cabinets, and work centers for tools and assembly. But this one's a little different. This is a little bit closer to that fine woodworking category, and so I'm really wanting to stretch myself in that direction, and so you guys are going to get to see how I do. There are some compromises that I'm going to be willing to make to try to stay within my capabilities to do this project. So assessing my own capabilities, the capabilities of the tools in my shop, and what various things could demand of me, I'm going to try to do some things to stretch my skills as well as some things to kind of hold back a little bit so that I have a high degree of confidence that it can get done. So finally, my assessment is, yes, I can do this. I'm confident I can do this. And I'm inviting you guys to tag along to see what I do and to learn whatever it is you can pick up from what I'm doing. I'm going to have other parts in this series to showcase different aspects of the project. The next one I'm going to talk about the design for the table. So what processes did I go through to come up with a design that I'm happy with to meet my goals? This is where we're going to actually get into drawing schematics on pieces of paper. And I can tell you over the period of time I've been thinking about doing this, which is at least a year, I've probably had 3 or 4 different designs. So I will show you maybe a little bit as far as the ones that I did and tossed, and then show you, of course, what I actually arrived at. I'd also like to show you some simpler build options. I know, not a whole lot of you are going to have all these tools that I've accumulated. You're not Norm Abram, and back in the day, I wasn't either. But I want to show you what's possible with simpler tools, with more basic tools that you probably do have, so that if you're thinking about putting together a table, I'd like to share my ideas as far as how you could do that and something that you're happy with. Third, I want to show you material selection. Until I got into woodworking, I had never been to a real lumber yard before, and I mean a real hardwood lumber yard where you have domestic lumber as well as imported lumber. It's a different place. It's a whole different world than what you're thinking of at Home Depot. And I want to go through how you go from your ideas for as what you need and then what you end up buying at one of these places, because it's more going on than what you think. It's not saying, oh, I need so many 2x4s and I need so many 1x3s and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not like that at all. So I want to share with you a little bit about what it means to go to one of these places and what you can expect to need to do. Then I'm going to have a video or a segment on constructing the base table. Now, as I said, I am not going to go ahead and show you, show sawdust flying off saws. I am going to show you steps and maybe some tricks and difficulties that I had in actually doing it. And finally, I talk to you about what comes next. So I'm going to have a tabletop, as I mentioned. I want to have table accessories. I can talk to you about that. And then I can talk to you about standalone support cabinets that I want to make that are not going to be part of the table, but are going to be closely integrated with the table, so they will fit underneath the table to do various things that I'd like to have happen. And then as far as the channel goes, it's going to be difficult for me to do regular game videos until I get the base table done, but I think that's not going to be as bad as that I'm afraid of it's going to be. I think it's going to come together once I really get going on it, which I started on things today. So it may be, say, 3 weeks before I get anything out there, maybe more, because I have to finish. You have to do, the finishing on the wood as well. But I'm going to put out other things that you may be interested that are game related, such as these videos or other things that I have ideas on that I've seen other guys do. It's not going to be anything exotic, so that I can keep you interested in the channel while I am doing the work on the table. And after the table gets to the point where the base table is done, we can go back to doing game reviews once again. All right, this is all I have for you today. I hope you're going to be interested and follow along as I work on this project and try to give you as many ideas as I can as far as what you can do for your own hobby. For now, we'll call it here, and so if you haven't already subscribed, I surely would appreciate a subscription and hitting the notify button and all that good stuff. For my existing subscribers, of course, I simply say thank you, and I hope you have fun following along with this and the other videos I'm going to come up with in 2023. For now, this is all for today. So this is Paul, the Yoga Knight, and I wish you all a pleasant evening.